Welcome everyone to episode, what is this, 38 of the Launch Your Life podcast. This is the interview series where we bring on experts. Maybe I don't want to say experts, actually. We bring professionals in live streaming. And, today we've got a great guest, but I just want to say this first. And it's the fact that, according to mainstream media, Chicago, one of the most often overlooked details on a live stream is the most important part. And it's not video. Isn't that right, Jim?
That's right. It's the audio.
Yeah. And, an audience, they will stay with you through buffering, frame drops, low resolution video feeds. They might not even be able to see who they're actually watching on a stream. But hey, if that audio is good, they will continue and listen. But at the same time, like, hey, if that audio drops out, your audience, they're out of there. And it's a very interesting thing. I don't really understand, why people will sit through the video part, for example, and, I guess it's because they can at least hear it, I think this is a really important topic. And so today we're going to be talking with Marc Muhlberger, and we're going to be talking with him about how to pick the right microphone for live streaming. I know when we talk microphones, a lot of people, they think, oh, hey, I'm gonna spend $20 on a microphone, for example, or they're going to use, and by the way, the headphones from your smartphones, they're okay to use if you're kind of in a pinch, but you do want to make the investment in a microphone. And there are lots of options to choose from, actually. And I know it can be confusing. I mean, there's condenser mics and there's omnidirectional mics, and there's all these different patterns you need to know about. And a lot of people really want that plug and play option. So what we're going to do on this week's episode is we're going to talk with Marc, learn how he got started in live streaming, and discuss how you can pick the right microphone when you are live streaming. So let's go and bring on Marc. Marc, it's fantastic having you join us for episode 38 of the Launch Your Live podcast. So want to tell people maybe a little bit about yourself, like who you are, and then let's just talk about what got you started with live streaming?
Well, thank you so much for having me here on the show. And my name is Marc Muhlberger, and I'm from Austria. And I started with live streaming. Well, it's actually because I do like online courses and stuff like that. So actually, I'm always behind the camera. So I was never in front of the camera my whole life, and I was always scared of being in front of the camera. It was like, it's scary, actually. It's like talking on stage. A lot of people are scared of talking on stage. So I'm a photographer and a videographer, and I take pictures of people and film people. And I'm more like behind the camera. I'm like hiding behind the camera. And at one point in my life, I thought like, hey, I gotta get in front of the camera. I really gotta do that, especially if you want to grow your audience and if you want to reach people and want to share your message. It's like really important to show your personality in front of the camera. So that's how I got started. Actually, it was all was a bet with my wife, and we made a bet. Like I gotta make this amount of money because I was doing my offline job and I was drawing people at weddings, taking pictures and doing films and stuff like that. But because a lot of things happened, it was like I gotta switch to online. I gotta make like an income that is scalable. I gotta like reach more people. I gotta be like because of this year because COVID happened, it's like you gotta do something so you can like get some money and when your business shuts down, your offline business. Yeah, so that's actually how it all started up.
That's really cool. I mean, so many people do have that fear, Marc, of going from behind the camera to being in front. So, so kudos to you for overcoming that fear. And of course, I think we still always have that little bit of fear, but I also think it's like it's the real us, right? When we're in front of a camera, and it's like you could probably talk to people all day without a camera being there, and it's like so it's just got to remember that now you're on film. So Marc, let's kind of start digging into these questions. So the first one would be, why do you think audio is important for live video? And really, wouldn't some people think that video is more important as opposed to audio?
Yeah, well, so if you're watching a YouTube video and the video is great, but the audio is bad, you're more likely to like stop the YouTube video and go to the next YouTube video. And if you're watching a YouTube video where like the audio is bad, but the video is bad, but the audio is like really good, and he has like this soothing voice, or like and giving a lot of tips and contents and a lot of value, you'll probably stay on more, even though the video is bad. And nowadays, a lot of people, they like listen while they're like doing their groceries or like cooking, and so they don't really watch the video. So I guess like the audio is actually the main thing you really need to concentrate on to like get people staying on your videos.
A really good point, and I find it interesting as well. When you just mentioned that, one thing that just immediately popped into my head is that on iOS 14, for example, if somebody's on an iPhone, they can now start a YouTube video, and in some cases, they can actually, throw that phone in their pocket and continue listening, and instead of having to, be glued to the video portion. I know people are going to probably say, well, hey, then why should I actually make all these videos? Again, I mean, you want to make sure you're getting your audience where they're at. For example, I know when we do our show Gem, I mean, we do these unique Launch Your Live interview series, and those are, a podcast episode, so it's audio, and we also have the video aspect as well that goes out on the channel. Because some topics, they're best where, you get to actually meet the person and learn a little more about them. So I think that is, it's a really good point you just made, Mark. So, okay, as far as microphones go, I mean, there's a lot of types of microphones. I know I alluded to some of these, or at least the different types, when I was just talking at the beginning, but can you talk about the different types of microphones? For example, I know there's condenser mics and omnidirectional and things like that, but can you talk about maybe the different mics so that our viewers and our listeners can understand there is a difference between a microphone?
Sure. Well, there are like two main types of microphones we use when we're like making videos and talking. And those are condenser microphones and they're dynamic microphones. And at the moment, I'm using a condenser microphone. That's a film mic I use for making my movies and stuff. And it's out of the screen, so it's not that near to my face, right? And you're using the Shure SM7B, which is a dynamic microphone, which you have to keep like fairly near to you. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the difference between condenser and dynamic mics, is that like the dynamic mic, you have to probably keep it a lot nearer to you, and the condenser mic, you keep it a little bit outside of the screen. And both of them are like they have like the same cardioid polar pattern, so which means it's like it picks up sound from like the front, like mostly the front side, like it's shaped like a little heart shape. And so everything that's coming from the back or more to the side is not picked up all that much. So those are the cardioid microphones from a polar pattern characteristic, are like the microphones that I would use for like doing like this voice stuff and like making your courses or your videos. So I have a Rode Procaster here too. It's like the Shure SM7B, and I can put it like on the screen. And with my like device, my mixer, my Rodecaster Pro, I can like switch to it. So let me just see if I can. You hear me now when I'm speaking through this microphone? Okay, yeah. So this microphone is like a dynamic microphone, which means it does not need to be powered by your audio interface, but it does have it doesn't have that much power itself. You have to like raise the volume a lot. So what I do to compensate that is I get an inline preamp, which is an amplifier that comes between your microphone and your preamp or your audio interface. And what I use here is the Cloud Lifter, and there's also the Triton Audio Fathead, which you can use too. The main difference is the Cloud Lifter costs double as much, but the Fathead only needs like one cable. You can plug it directly at the back of your mic or to your audio interface, and you only need one cable. The Cloud Lifter you need two. So those are like the two different main ones. Like we mostly use when using dynamic microphones to just give it a little more power, more gain, so you don't have to like pull the levels up all that much on your audio interface, which could cause noise, because it's like it's multiplying the noise that's inside the electronics. So that's just a quick tip on dynamic microphones. There's also amps, inline preamps for condenser microphones that Triton Audio makes. So I just ordered one, and I'm gonna be trying out that one next week to see like if I can stick it into my condenser microphone. The condenser microphone I'm using is the Rode NTG3. It's a shotgun mic used in film sets, and it's pretty cool. But it's about $600, so or euros. Well, there's a cheaper one, and the cheaper one is about 80 euros, and or like something like $100, and that's a Rode M3. It's a pretty cool microphone. It looks very similar. It's you can't see it here because you're probably listening to the podcast, but those are they're looking at the YouTube video. Can see this microphone over here, and it's very, very similar and sounds almost the same. So if you're considering getting one, you can get one of those.
Now, Mark, is that the type of microphone, like maybe you could put it like, say, above your monitor screen if you're doing a live stream, and it'll be able to catch your voice without having, like, I have the Samson Q2U for those watching right now, and that's, as you said, that's right next to me so that the audio can be heard. But the one you just showed or talking about, is that one that we could put like out of sight, but it'll pick up our voice?
Yes, it is, and but it always depends on like what direction you're pointing it at. So if you're like in a noisy environment and there's a lot of things going on in your background, a lot of people make the mistake that are pointing it directly at you from the camera perspective, and it's also picking up the background noise at the back of you. So what we do in film is actually we like hold it at the bottom or on the top, right outside the frame, and it's pointing at you, but at an angle from the top or from the bottom. So that way you don't get the noise at the back of you. And a lot of people like put it on their camera. So what you could do is like what both of you are doing, just bring the mic nearer to you, and that way you won't have to like higher the volume all that much, and it also gets rid of background noise. So that's like one tip I could give everybody. It doesn't really matter what kind of mic you have. If you bring it nearer to you, nearer towards you, you'll get rid of a lot of background noise that way.
Fantastic.
Or was that the? Yeah, sorry.
I was going to, can you switch back to your other microphone you were using, the first one?
Sure. Okay, so this is the condenser microphone, and I could actually switch to, if you want to, I could switch to the $80 microphone so you can hear the difference.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah, I was getting some feedback actually on the other one, so yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, let's just go here to audio. Wait a minute. Sorry. Can you hear me on this one?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the M3 from Rode, and it's connected to an audio interface called the Behringer. It's like the Rodecaster Pro, the one I used before, but it's a lot cheaper, and it costs about $50 to $80. I paid 50 euros for that one, and it's pretty small, so you can like plug it into USB. It's very limited on features, but it has phantom power, which means it powers your condenser mics. All condenser mics need phantom power. Some have batteries, like the M3 you can like put inside, or you can just power it through your audio interface. So this is like the M3. It's the cheap microphone that sounds very similar to the other one. And there are also USB microphones. Should we get into that too?
Yeah, I think that's good for people to understand the difference between the USB and XLR microphones.
Okay, just a quick test. Can you hear me now when I'm speaking to the USB microphone?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this microphone is plugged in directly to USB. It's a microphone I got today, actually, from the company Marantz. And I know Marantz from before. They make like high-end stereo stuff for at home studio stuff. And so I was pretty excited to get like a microphone from them. And this is a microphone that costs only about, it's 60 euros, so it's about $70. And it's actually not that bad if I don't speak directly into it. So it's a cool microphone for a little less money. And it sounds pretty good, but I have to keep it nearer to my face, so near to my mouth. So this is like, if you can see this is like where I'm holding it. And I got to be careful. I have to talk into the microphone, but I'm not allowed to breathe into the microphone because that could cause like this the plosives. And what a lot of people do, they have like this, they have like a pop filter, which they put in front of the microphone. So if you're like breathing into the microphone, I can do that now with just a minute. So at the moment I'm breathing into my microphone, you can probably hear less plosives coming up. The P noises and B noises sound a little weird. So if I don't talk to my microphone like this, and I'm talking like just at an angle where I'm not breathing into it, then it sounds a lot better. So that's another tip I could give, like don't talk directly into your microphone or use a pop filter.
Fantastic. I will say this. I mean, I notice, I would say from you switching the microphones, I can hear the difference between all of these. I mean, you know, you go to, like, the first one you had sounded fantastic. I know when you switch the USB one, I know Marantz makes fantastic home theater and, you know, stereo equipment. I could notice the difference in just the sound of your voice. You could start to hear certain sounds outside of your voice with the USB model, for example. But I mean, again, you know, this is like, there's lots of options. So I guess one question I have on microphones. So you mentioned some of these, you know, I think you said one of these was like $600, or I think it was 600 euros. You know, I know the Shure SM7B is about $400. Jem, how much is your mic? I think that's what, 100, 150?
No, it's the Samson. You can get the Samson for about $80.
Say about $80, you know, and then I know there are mics that are like a lot of people go and say like, hey, I'm going to get a Blue Yeti or something like that. When, like, I guess when somebody's picking a microphone, I mean, what's the right price point to start at? Because, for example, if I'm not using, like, while I would say, hey, throw all the money you can at the audio, you don't want to also make that big investment if it's something that you haven't really kind of gotten off the ground and going. You know, it's great to have all the equipment, but you need to also understand how it all kind of works. But can you maybe kind of advise, if somebody wanted to get started, what kind of microphone might they work with? What might an intermediate person work with? And what might an advanced person work with?
Sure. I can go to the different budgets and the different price points. So if you're just getting started, you got to think about, are you using the microphone alone, or you want to get somebody as a guest on there? Because most USB microphones don't allow it to, they come into like issues when you like connect more than one USB microphone. And you also don't have the ability to connect an audio interface between the microphone and the computer. Some do come with software where you can like change stuff and add an equalizer which changes your voice, right? And so I always suggest, like, for the long run, I suggest getting a good XLR microphone, which is the connection type. USBs connect directly to USB, and XLRs connect to actually an audio interface. So I suggest like one of those, and they're not that expensive. Some USB microphones are a lot more expensive than the XLR microphones. If you take the Blue Yeti, it's like 140, something like that, right, or more. And you get if you get the pod mic from Rode, that's like $100. It's a dynamic microphone for $100, which is actually pretty similar to the Shure, but it's not that good. And then there's also the Rode M3, which we tested before, which is a condenser mic for $80. So that's like the starter kit, and those were like the microphones I'd start out with. And if you're on the go, you could get like the Marantz. It's the I think it's called MQM 1000U. I'm not really sure, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good microphone. I tested it today. I was pretty astonished that it was that good. But you have to keep it near to you, you know. So that's like the cheap side of everything. So and then we're going to the mid-range, and it also depends on like what you're doing. If you're walking around a lot and you want to like pick up your voice while you're walking around, there's some solutions to that, like getting the Rode Wireless Go, which is actually a small square like wireless set, where you could connect a microphone to it, but you also could use it alone as a standalone device because there's a microphone built in. So I like the wireless set a lot because it's very, very small. You can add it to your camera too, but don't connect it directly to your camera because the internals of the camera, the audio, the preamps in the camera are usually very bad unless you have like a dedicated like a film camera that costs a little more with XLR inputs. But the usual DSLRs and the mirrorless cameras or system cameras we have nowadays, they aren't that good from the preamp side of things. So that's the mid-budget. It's like more the Rode Wireless Go if you're on the go, or you could get like the Rode Procaster, which is about 180. That's very similar to the Shure SM7B. It's a fairly good mic. It has a built-in pop filter, but it's not that good. The built-in pop filter is not that good, so you need an extra one too. And you'll have to like connect it to an inline preamp to like boost the signal a bit. And then in the mid-range, there's also, I would say, It's also the Shure SM7Bs actually. It's more like the mid to high range, and this is like a microphone that's been there for decades. It's like one of the classic microphones a lot of people and singers are using. So it really picks up a lot of your voice, which other cheaper microphones do not do. So if you're like really like this audio guy and you're like listening to like every nuance of your voice, it's always good to have a microphone that's like really picking up everything, right? And of course, it gets like more expensive the higher up you go, but a good audio interface is not that bad either. So the Rodecaster Pro is like the one I use, and it's it has really great quality preamps and all this stuff.
Fantastic.
Great stuff.
As far as microphones, so can you just recap that real quick? I mean, so beginner, what would be the beginner one? If you had to say, hey, this is the one I would get if I'm beginning, it's exactly this. The intermediate and the advanced, real quick.
Yeah, so if you're beginning and you just want, because it's a very cheap mic, you can go like with the Marant. Oops, it's an MPM 1000U. So that's like a USB microphone. You can always upgrade to an XLR microphone later on because this microphone is really cheap, and it fits in your bag. If you like a little bag, you can like plug it in there, and it has a USB cable. I'm not really such a fan of USB mics, but that's a tiny microphone. It's about as big as my hand, and it's you can fit it into your. I thought it was bigger because the pictures look a lot bigger, but it's a real tiny microphone. So that's what I would choose, and you have to get like a stand to go with it. There's a mount that comes with it, with a 3/8 to a 5/8 thread, but you can like put it into a $18, $22 like desk stand from Rode, the DS1 if you want to. So that's like a desk stand you can screw apart, and you can like put that in your bag too. It's weighted too. So that's like the first mic I would buy when I'm starting out. And if you want to go like have more control over the microphone, you can get an audio interface like the Behringer or the Scarlett. So the Behringer is like $50, and you can get it from $40 upwards. And you can get the Rode M3. This is the mic I recommend, or the pod mic, but you'll need like a little inline preamp to like boost the signal a little bit. So that's like the beginner microphones I get. And if you're moving around a lot, then get the Rode Wireless Go. It's a fairly good mic, and it's very cheap. It's like $190 to $200, something like that. And it comes with everything you need actually. And you can clip it to your clothes. You can put it on your camera and like plug it in there. And if you want to plug it into your phone, you got to get a TRS to a TRRS adapter. Like it's actually like the 3.5 millimeter connector, because the phones only use those three TRRS connectors with 3 rings. TRRS has 3 rings, TRS has 2 rings. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's like the starter budget. And then when you go up to mid and high, it's like the others, the Shure SM7B, the Rode Procaster, and like the mic I have, the Rode NTG3.
Perfect. And then obviously for the audio interface for something like that, you may want the Rodecaster Pro maybe.
Yeah.
I know Zoom has a product as well. Not Zoom, the video company, by the way, for people that are listening or watching. There are 2 Zoom companies. There's one that makes audio equipment, and there's another one that does online meetings. So just be careful about that actually. So yeah, the Rodecaster Pro. Yeah, there's also the Zoom. I think, what model is that actually?
I think that's the H6.
That's the H6. So I used this a long time. I was very happy with it, but it cannot compete with the internals like the XLRs. It's not as good as the Rodecaster Pro, so I tend not to use it all that much. But there's a new one that came out. It looks like a spider. It's the H8. You got to take a look at that one. So yeah, Zoom makes great quality audio interfaces and microphones.
Fantastic. Yeah, and the one you have there, for example, the one you just held up, the H6. I think I've got that like H4, H5, I think. But
there's an H4.
The great thing about that is, you plug in XLR. So those are XLR microphones that can plug into that. And I know on the top there's a mic. And remember, I mean, those are really good. For example, if I go to a concert and I want to capture crowd noise, I want to capture, all of just the ambiance, that device there is a fantastic device for that. But as you mentioned, the Rodecaster Pro, or an audio interface, an actual. I'm not to say they're not a real audio interface, but one that is designed for the type of recording you're going to be doing, that's what you really need to focus on. So fantastic. We got the great options there. Now, I think we have just a couple more questions, right, for him, Jim?
Yeah, yeah. So Mark, can you share 3 situations and the type of microphone you'd want to use in those situations? Like as an example, maybe in an interview, or if you're playing musical instruments, if you're maybe creating an online course. What are the different type of microphones you'd want to use in those different scenarios?
Sure. So if you don't have much of a budget, but you want to make an interview with 2 people and you're like on location, then I'd use like something like either 2 pod mics, 2 separate microphones, and not like one microphone. A lot of people are using the Blue Yeti and they're putting it in the middle, and then they're turning it to the either the omnidirectional or the bidirectional polar pattern, and it's like so far away from the people that it's picking up so much room noise and reverb, and it's making your voice so tiny that's like it's not a good idea, right? So I wouldn't use that. I would use 2 separate microphones that you can keep fairly near to the people. It doesn't matter if they're like talking into it. It's okay too. Or you can put lav mics on them. I can like switch to a lav mic now. So can you hear me when I'm talking to this microphone?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a lavalier microphone. I have it on my shirt, and it's like the lavalier microphones aren't that expensive. They're like $40 to like something like that. And this one I've connected to the Rode Link, which is a wireless transmitter and receiver. And this is like one used for film sets, but it works really well for everything else, and it has really good quality. So you can like put lav mics on each of the interviewees. I think it's called interviewees, right?
Yeah.
Or what I would do if you have like a little more budget, I'd use 2 shotgun mics, which is the like the Rode NTG3 I have, and like put it out a little bit outside the frame, but aim it at the people. You can also put it underneath the desk. As long as they don't like stomp their feet or something like that, But you can put like a little bit outside of the frame and like aim it at their faces, So you could do that, and that's like more for if you have a little more of a budget. And then you just put it all into like a mixer. And the Rodecaster Pro is amazing because it like it records the channels separately since the update last year. So you can like always tweak, like if somebody's like too not loud enough, you can like tweak that later on. But it's always good to get good headsets to listen to that on set. And I highly recommend the Biodynamic DT770, which are pretty cool headsets. I had them like a really long time, and so they're pretty good. And they cost about 120 euros, so they're pretty cheap. It's good for monitoring audio on set.
What's that model again? The Biodynamic what?
Biodynamic DT770 Pro.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's like the good earphones for monitoring. There are different kinds, like open ones and closed ones. So it always depends on like what you want to hear. Want to hear more of the overall environment, or if you don't want to hear that at all and just the audio itself. So just to sum it up, if you're going don't have that much of a budget, just get 2 pod mics because they're pretty cheap. They're specially made for podcasting, but you got to keep them pretty near. And aim it at the person talking. So there's like one to the left and one to the right, and connect that to an audio interface that accepts like 2 inputs.
Okay, got it.
And I would say please do invest in a Rodecaster Pro or something where you can like record the different tracks separately, because you'll have more. You can like change the volume on each and everyone's individual track, and like the voice too. So that's like the cheap set, or lav mics, which cost 40 euros, a lot less than a pod mic that costs like 100 or like $100, right? You can put lav mics in each one of the people, and you can like connect that to either you like use a cable, but using a longer cable is not always a good idea. But you can also use the Rode Wireless Go. You can use that for those lav mics. And the XLR mics, if you like the podcasters or the procasters, the pod mic, you can actually get a Triton Audio Broadcast inline preamp, which is made to like for long, what do you call that? When something like really far away. So
audio run, yeah.
Yeah. So you can use like one of those, and they're like so they're good for that.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's that's if somebody's going to do an interview. So now, And I like the point that you made about using a pair of microphones, for example, versus people trying to use one microphone and pick up, multiple people. I mean, again, it's about, and in your case, I mean, as you can see, you have, hopefully, or people that can see and hear that you have a number of different microphones, and it's almost like it's like if I'm a builder, for example, and I'm going to build a house. I don't just have one hammer, for example. I have multiple hammers for different parts of the job. For example, if I need to hammer a nail, I have a certain hammer. If I want to hammer something else in, there's like ball hammers, all sorts of things depending on the task I'm doing. By the way, I don't know much about hammers and tools and that kind of stuff, but that is, that's what I would compare that to. Just so you have different types of microphones for the situation. Don't try to, use a hammer, for example, when you need a screwdriver, for a job. It makes it easier and you get the results that you want versus, because as we mentioned at the beginning, I mean, you want to make sure your audio sounds the best that it possibly can. To make sure you make the right investment into, the right equipment. Okay, so if somebody were going to, and this comes up a lot, by the way, for live streaming, if somebody wanted to play music or sing, a lot of people think, well, hey, I'm just going to use the same microphone that I have. Just give us a quick rundown. What kind of package would you set up there?
Yeah, so different microphones, you can use different microphones for different stuff, and they're all very, very different. On the Shure website, Shure makes a lot of microphones that are built specifically for instruments. Mm-hmm. So, but there's also good microphones that are like a little all-rounders, like the AKG 414, CH414. You probably heard of that microphone. Mm-hmm. It's like $600 to $700, right, or more. And so you gotta choose like the specific environment to like record this stuff. So it's not like recording everything in a room. You gotta like prep the room for recording those stuff, so you don't like pick up echo and stuff like that. So actually, I would say the main thing you gotta think about is like to try and get the audio in when you're like recording the audio, the best possible audio without the need to like fix it later in post-production. Like, you know what I mean? So the first thing I do before you choose like a mic is like to choose a room and prep the room, and then choose like the mic accordingly based on like what instrument you're using. So I can't give you a tip on what instrument you can use in that because it always depends. And so I'd really like you can like go to the Shure website, and then you can like choose under the different categories which microphones they recommend for like percussions and for all those like different. And it also depends like how you're mounting those stuff and the distance and all those, that also makes a big difference. So I'd really just think of like what instrument are you using, and find a room that really like brings out the best of that instrument. Sometimes you want that like that echo hall, and we were like all going around, like it also depends on like finding the right room to like give you the best sound possible that fits to the instrument you're using. Or if you're like singing, it also depends on like what you want to get out of it, right? So sometimes you don't want to like get rid of all that the reverb and stuff.
So one thing I want to add just real quick, and then we're going to move on to the next situation real quick. And it's the fact that if you think about it, okay, so if somebody is going to be recording a hit record, for example, or they're just going to record an album, right? A musical album. So what will typically happen is people will, they will prepare that room specifically for the audio, for example, and they are only capturing the audio, and then they're, as you mentioned, they're mixing that in with other things. So if the instrument, for example, has a certain feel, you hear a lot of musicians do this. They go to certain studios, for example, and record, or they go to certain places, and they don't just go there. It's not just, oh, hey, I'm going to this tropical location because of the environment. They're necessarily going to the location because that's going to help them craft the sound that they want. So, I really like just the fact that you're highlighting, picking the right room and picking the right microphone based on the instrument. Again, it's going back to what we said earlier. You don't just want to use the same microphone for every single task. It's about having options based on what you're going to do. And that's going to come back to, Jem, something you and I talk a lot about, which is strategy, having a live video strategy. A lot of people don't have that strategy. They just go and get the equipment because somebody recommended it. They've recommended one microphone, and instead they need to, really think, okay, well, what am I actually going to be building here? What's my main item? For example, if I'm going to be doing a lot of, and let's get to the next item, for example, if I'm going to be doing a lot of online courses, so an online course versus interview, two different situations there. Online course, I'm going to be talking to a camera, for example, and a microphone. I'm not going to necessarily be interviewing somebody. So, in that situation, I have a different microphone, for example, that I may want to use there. So speaking of that one, online courses, what type of setup would you recommend there? What type of microphone are we looking at?
Yeah, I definitely recommend the cardioid microphone from a polar pattern cardioid, because that picks up your voice coming from directly from you, and removes the background noise from the back and the sides, So that's the type of microphone I choose. It doesn't really matter if it's a dynamic or a condenser microphone, depending on how much of the room noise you want to get rid of. But it's usually the distance to your mouth in comparison to the distance to the noise around you. So what I suggest is point the side of the microphone that doesn't pick up noise towards the place that's the loudest in the room. Sometimes my dishwasher is going, because I'm doing my studios in our living room, which is our kitchen actually. So when we turn on the dishwasher, and you have to turn it on once a day, and I'm actually going live a lot. So I'll point the part of the microphone that doesn't pick up sound toward the dishwasher, and I won't hear it. So that's like one thing you can do, and keep it very, very near to your mouth. So the microphone, it really depends, but it doesn't really matter if you which one you choose. You can always improve the sound on it. So I choose the NTG3. This is my favorite microphone for this stuff, and I have more. It's more forgiving when I move around. With a dynamic microphone, I have to stay put, and I'm not allowed to move 10 centimeters away or 20 centimeters away, because it's the proximity effect. The nearer you are to the microphone, the more little movements matter. So with the other microphone, I can I can move around a little bit more, because it's a little bit far away, and it's not like the dynamic mic. It's a condenser.
And what's the cost of the Rode NTG3 roughly?
Yeah, it's 600 euros, so it's about maybe $700 to $750. But it's totally worth it. It's a very robust microphone, which is also weather sealed, and works in low temperatures. So if you're in the Alps, like I am in the Austrian Alps, it's a good microphone to use.
This is really good information. So okay, so that's about $700 to $750. Now, if somebody were just getting started, what kind of microphone would you recommend? Because Jim, you and I talk about this a lot. People want to create courses, and a lot of people tell them, "Oh, just get started," right? They tell them just get started, and people use they might try to use that onboard mic on their computer. Yikes! Onboard mics on a computer, by the way, not very good. You got a microphone, but it picks up everything. So if I were going to go with maybe a nice beginner mic there, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so there's one thing you got to say about this. If you like the way you sound, you will go live more often. If you like the way you look, you'll go live more often. So get a microphone where you feel that you sound good.
Great advice.
That's like that's like the buying advice. I'd say if you're in a way to choose a microphone, get a few of them, bring them home, and test them out and see where you sound the best. You can't. It's hard to say because I got microphones that are $60 that sound better than the other microphones they have that cost double as much. The Marantz sounds a lot better than Blue Yeti. The Blue Yeti is an all-in-one. It does everything and nothing really, really good. So the Marantz is just focused on one thing, on that cardioid polar pattern, and it does that really well. So yeah, so that's what I would say. Test it out and see what works best for your voice.
Awesome. And so, Mark, a final question for you today is, what are some tips that you would give someone regarding setting up your live stream studio?
Yeah, so like you said in the beginning, start with audio, right? So find a room look for a room that's quiet. So that's the first thing. And then take a look at the angles of the room. Don't talk against the wall, because that'll bounce back at the microphones. Set it up so you're not directly talking to the room, but an angle to wall. And you can put up stuff on the wall so the reverb breaks down, sound panels, or even just a blanket or something like that. So that'll be another thing to do. And put your microphone at an angle too. So you can play with that and see how it sounds best. So a lot of people, when they're setting up like their music stuff at home, they like go around and get a mirror, and they're like putting the mirror at different angles at the walls and seeing like where they can see their speakers. So you can do the same thing with a microphone, or when you're talking, like so you know like where it's moving around. And another thing I'd say is please put the microphone as near as possible to your mouth. If you don't want it to be in screen, get a condenser microphone. If you want it to be in screen, get a dynamic microphone. But keep it as close as possible, but not too close because of the proximity effect, because that sounds like really too prominent if you're like too close to the microphone. So like that's the tip on the microphone. And yeah, try it out. Get a good audio interface if you're into that. Or yeah, so that's about all on audio. And on the video side, I'd say get a good camera. Don't use a webcam. Don't use like a smartphone. Those have tiny sensors, and when the light gets worse, they're like really, really grainy. Use a cheap DSLR. You can get a used Canon SL1, or also called the 100D, for 130 euros. I just saw that yesterday. So that's it has to have continuous autofocus in movie mode. Then you're good to go. You can connect that through USB cable if you want to, and you have the best webcam ever. So
What
that's
model?
like the tip on.
What
It's a
model is
used
that camera?
Canon SL1, but it does not have clean HDMI out. So if you want to connect it through HDMI, which gives you the ability to use the camera audio, which I actually do not recommend, but it's at least it's in sync, you know, so you don't have to like sync it later on by delaying the audio. Then get the Canon SL1, and if you have the budget, get the Canon SL3. And today I just got a Canon M200 in, which is about $400 to $450 something like that, and it's like a mirrorless camera, but the mirrorless tend to overheat a lot faster. So that's the tip on cameras. Get a camera with a big sensor, so you won't have problems with low light, and get a fixed focal length prime lens with it, so you can like open that up and you will have no problems with low light at all. And on the light, get the biggest light possible, so the shadows will be as soft as possible. Unless you want to look really manly, then get a small light source, because that will accentuate your face. Okay. Don't get a ring light.
So this is all fantastic advice, by the way. We're going to make sure that we write all this up. So if people want to, get in touch with you, want to connect with you, Mark, what are the best places for them to do that?
Yeah, so you can find me at www.content-creation-studio-setup.com. So it's content creation studio setup.com with a minus sign in between. And if you go there and do a backslash and write checklist, so content creation studio setup.com /checklist, you can get like a checklist which you can download and print out. You can write down a checklist of your video studio. So you can like know what you got to buy and what's missing. So you can like print that out if you want to at home. So that's the best way to keep in touch with me. And if you're on Facebook, you can like friend request me if you want to. I don't know if that was just okay. You could if you want to. So it's on Facebook. Just look for my name, Marc Daniel Muhlberger. And yeah, so that's the best way to keep in touch with me at the moment.
Awesome.
Fantastic. This is I mean, just great information, I think. I mean, hopefully it gives people it empowers them, I think, to help them pick the right microphone for live streaming. There's a lot of options. As Jem and I mentioned at the beginning, there's so many options that you have to look at and you have to consider. I mean, just the key thing obviously is to get started, and get started meaning I build a live video strategy, and I honestly tell myself, this is actually what I want to create. And then I get the right equipment to help me do that. So that's what I mean when I say get started. Don't just go and buy the equipment. Make sure you have a sound plan. Anything else you want to add, Jem?
No, I think this has been a great episode, Mark. You brought a lot of value to our listeners and our viewers. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this, because you brought up a bunch of great equipment, and especially with at the time we're recording this, Black Friday coming up, I might have to put some stuff on my Christmas wish list, because definitely some things worth checking out into a lot more detail. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark. This has been great.
Thanks for having me in the show. Thank you so much. Feel really honored to be here.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us. This is episode 38 of the Launch Your Live podcast, where we discussed how to pick the right microphone. Notice I didn't say best microphone for live streaming with Marc Muhlberger, because as you know, there are a lot of types of microphones that you need to consider, but it also comes down to what you're going to do with it. If you're going to be recording a course, or conducting interviews, or you want to play some musical instruments. And we realize that a lot of people are virtual now, and it still comes down to the same thing. Get the right equipment and find a nice space to do that in. So for those of you who want to learn more about all the topics that we discussed, go to launcher.live/EP38. And remember, if you need help with your live streaming, contact us for a consultation by messaging us on our Facebook page at Launch Your Live. We'll see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye, everyone.